Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. This week we're talking about coaching. Coaching is hard. Leading is hard. I started really thinking about this when I had to submit a topic for a seminar that I do every year with the Ohio Parks and Recreation Association, and I talk about leadership, and I thought, let's just go to the basics. Leadership is hard. That, combined with talking with coaches about postseason evals and all the things that go along with evaluating the season, really got me thinking about how much coaches think about coaching and how hard the job really is. Every year we had kids come in and say, hey, I want to be a coach. And I would smile, and on the inside I'd really smile and think, you have no idea what coaching really is. It's way more than that. It's way more challenging. It's way more frustrating. It's way more joyful. It's way more humbling. It's time-consuming. All these different things. It's life-consuming. And yet, it's the best thing that you can ever do. And yet, it's the hardest thing, or one of the hardest things that we can ever do, because everybody knows how to do our job better. We know that. In fact, we think about coaching so much, 365 days a year, right? When I was coaching, that's all I thought about. In fact, on Christmas Eve, I like to tell the story that my friend Julie, who was my associate head coach, I had just been at her house. She calls me a couple hours after I got home, and she goes, hey, on our first and third, where do you think the second baseman should stand? I went ahead and told her, and she says, all right, Merry Christmas, I'll talk to you tomorrow. We went ahead, wrapping our kids' presents, putting the finishing touches on Christmas, all the while thinking about that first and third play that we were going to run when we got back in January. That is how much we think about coaching. But if it was only that easy, if it was only just thinking about defensive sets or skill instruction or all those things, it's so much more than that because we're so invested. And then the end of the season comes and the evaluations come and we read them, and there's always somebody or a few somebodies that say stuff and you're like, oh, she didn't care about X, Y, and Z. And you would hate to admit how much sleep you have lost over X, Y, and Z. But everybody, when they have the opportunity to evaluate, has a tendency to go to the negative because we are wired with a negativity bias. It's who we are. The negative things that happen, even if they happen at the same cadence, even if they happen with the same magnitude as the positive things, the negative things take our attention. We have more a tendency to ruminate on those and relive those and rehash those and talk about those with other people. We glide right past the positives and we go right to the negative and we take that with us. So it's no surprise that when we sit down to take an evaluation or do an evaluation, those are the things that we've been storing up to give to somebody. And oh gosh, sometimes it really hurts. So my suggestion is this. We've got to find something to do about that. We either change the evals, which I have some suggestions for that, or we change the way we react to the evals and what we do with those. So let's talk a little bit about both of those things. Number one, I've got a cheat sheet here of my tip that you can go to ssbperformance.com/blog, read it there. Lots of links in there today, so please go there and visit so you can join me for some free workshops. But here are a couple suggestions. Since we know that we have a negativity bias, let's start every evaluation off, and maybe you can, if you're an administrator, maybe this is something you can think about as you do the 360 evaluations or whatever it is you do. But let's think about how we can try to circumvent this system, the gift that keeps on giving, the negativity bias, how we can circumvent that a little bit and get people thinking about the good stuff that is there, because it's always there. There's always good in something. It's not that we don't want negative comments. It's that we want to have something a little more equal. We know that it takes 6 positive things to overshadow one negative thing, and we don't even hear 3 or 4 of those good things. I've got lots of examples of that. We'll talk about that on another tip, but here's a couple examples or simple questions that we might start our evaluations off with. What do you love about being a Greyhound? And the Greyhound, of course, the Richmond Greyhounds from Ted Lasso. If you haven't watched it, you have to. I'm obsessed with it, watching it again right now when I work out. Number 2, in what 3 ways did being a part of this program help you grow this year? Get them thinking about their responsibility. We would need to do the same thing as coaches, right? List 3 ways the program improved this year. How did you contribute to these improvements? What was your contribution to the success or the improvements that this team had? Just getting us to think and go against our nature to look for the good and find the bright spots. Shed some light on them because they're there. They're just hidden by the darkness of our negativity. So start off with that. Maybe then we start to really balance things out a little bit. These types of questions help us remember that there is good. Then we can go on and talk about just the student athletes or the coaches or whoever we're evaluating, their own personal experience. Our experience does not have to be quantified or qualified with somebody else's experience. To me, that's not giving ourselves enough credit. Teach those that are evaluating us to tell their story. Empower them to tell their story with their facts and their feelings so that they're learning to say, this is what it is what it is. It doesn't have to be quantified or qualified by somebody else's comments. The hearsay is irrelevant. These are the facts that I saw. These are the feelings that I had. We don't need to bring everybody else's opinion in because we really don't know what anybody else's opinion is. So if we get them to think only about theirs, I think we can get a little further. Tell us about your relationship with the coaching staff. What do you need from the staff to be successful as you move forward in your career? What changes would you like to see to help the program move forward? These are all good questions, and we can accept their answers, their own personal answers, not what their friend thinks. What are you willing to contribute to make these suggested changes successful? None of these suggestions, none of these questions limit the individual's ability to vent. This is an anonymous evaluation, most likely, and hopefully they feel as if they can do that. So let's get them to say what they think, what their feelings are, and then we take it from there. Someone will probably say, oh, you just don't like evaluations. You don't want to hear negative feedback. Trust me, I've had plenty. And in fact, every time I send out these tips, I wonder, what is someone going to think? And then in my 365 days a year now thinking about mental performance, I ran upon a story about how the Buddha deals with criticism. I'm going to read it to you here real quick. One sunny morning, Buddha was walking through a village in India. A man was upset with him and furiously shouted, "You have no right to teach others. You are as stupid as everyone else. You are nothing but a fake." I'm sure you've heard things very similar to that, Coach. The Buddha was not bothered by these insults as he listened patiently with a smile as the young man vented his anger. The Buddha's reaction further infuriated the man, and he said, "Why are you just sitting there smiling? Have you nothing to say for yourself?" The Buddha then said, "If you want to give someone a gift, but that person chooses to refuse it, to whom would the gift ultimately belong?" The young man replied, "Well, I suppose since I bought it, it would then belong to me." "Yes," the Buddha said and smiled, "that is right. In the same way, I don't accept your anger and criticism. It's all yours, and you are the only one who becomes unhappy, not me." Think about that. You can Google that if you want to read it again. Oh, to be as resilient as the Buddha. Oh, it's so easy, but it's not so easy, right? We can't change the evaluations. We can't change the performance of what happened in the last season. But what we can change is what we do with these evaluations when we get these. How long are we going to let them sit with us? How long are we going to ruminate on them? How are we going to decide what thought takes up that precious one thought space in our head? What are we going to do about that? We can always change our reaction. Evaluations are good, anonymous or not. Adversity is good. It makes us look at what's not working. It makes us commit to what is working. It makes us evaluate things, which is exactly what an evaluation is supposed to do. And even if the responses that we get are not constructive and aren't really helpful, it gives us an opportunity to choose how we are going to react. How are we going to allow this to affect our day, our week, our month, our next season? Because we are always going to be challenged as coaches. How we decide to deal with that is going to make a difference on how we perform and how we then communicate with our athletes or anyone else around us. We know that the tools that we teach our athletes work just as well on us, but it's not the knowing that has value, it's the doing. So my question to you, coach, is this. What is your go-to? Are you going to get big and just plow through and say, yes, everyone's not going to be happy, but I could make some adjustments here? Are you going to dispute the negative self-talk that gets in your head when you start to think, oh, I blew it, or oh, I can't believe it, or how could this happen to me? Not why, but what can I do? What is your go-to plan? What are you going to do about managing evaluations or changes or the new things that need to happen for us to get where we want to go? I don't care what your season was like last year. I know you want to be better. We all do. And trust me, I could have been a lot better in a lot of ways. And my reactions could have been better for sure. So my question, coach, is what are your tools for managing your reactions and then everything that happens after that? I get to spend time working with businesses and business leaders, and I've done a lot over the past couple of months in talking to them about how their leadership of themselves makes a difference and the tools that they can use to help their reactions. I haven't shared this with coaches yet, but I'm going to on July 12th at noon. There's a link on the website in this tip to sign up if you'd like to join me for a free little talk about how it all starts with you, coach, and you already know that. We know that. I know that. I knew that. I didn't always take care of it, but I knew it. So if you'd like to join me for that, please do. I also have a free session for athletes tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Please send that link out to your players or to your colleagues. And again, June 15th, focus and performance, free session there, and then a couple paid sessions for your athletes to work with me in small group settings to help get them prepared to move back to campus. So think about it, coach. What's your go-to? What's your plan? We all need a plan to deal with the frustrations, to deal with the joy, to deal with the things that come at us as coaches. I hope you'll join me in the next couple weeks on a free webinar so we can talk about these things. I can get some feedback from you.